Investor's Choice Property Management, and I am here this Thursday at 6:30 and every Thursday at 6:30 answering all of your property management and renovation management questions. So let's begin. But first we want to share our disclaimer. Now, we're a property management company. We are not licensed paralegals, we are not legal professionals, and we are not qualified to give legal advice. Although many of the issues that come up require both the expertise of a property manager and a licensed paralegal, it is up to you to do your due diligence and make sure that you get the proper advice from the qualified professional. Today, we are only sharing our experiences. Okay? And this is definitely one of those situations where you want to check in with a paralegal before you start. I'm going to talk about a message that we received from one of our followers. Her name is Megan, and she says that there's a landlord who wants to sell a property and they have served the N12. So the tenant is worried though because there's no place for the tenant to sign on the N12. And the question is, does the landlord also need an N11? And the answer is not necessarily. So the N12 is served to the tenant, and the tenant has no say whether the landlord will sell the house or not. Now, this really comes down to what the buyer is planning on doing with the property. If the buyer is going to be using the property for his or her own use, then the tenant will have to move out. However, if the buyer is planning on continuing the rental, then the tenant has the option to stay and the first dibs to stay, per se. Okay, and because the tenant doesn't have a choice in the matter, there's no spot for the tenant to sign that N12. Okay. Now, we also had a follow-up question from this individual, and she says, is the landlord required to pay the tenant to leave? Now, the short answer is yes. There's a 1 month's rent that needs to be paid to the tenant for serving an N12 and taking over the property for personal use. And since the Bill 184 was put into effect in 2020, not only is the seller responsible to pay that 1 month rent, but the buyer is as well, if the buyer is coming in to use for personal use. Okay, now that's it for our questions for today. I'm going to leave you with a tip, and the tip is about the status of the LTB at this time. Now, unfortunately, the LTB is way in over their head with all of these hearings and all of these notices that have been coming out from the landlords, and we are seeing some hearings that are not being booked for up to 12 and 13 months from the time of being served. So we're talking January 2020 and around those times. So my tip for this week is really to manage your expectations when it comes to the LTB. These are unusually long wait times, and it sometimes will make sense for you to work outside of the system if you can, and that's sort of just an offer with the tenant. So maybe a cash for keys offer, or any kind of offer. Really try and get get a good understanding of what the tenant is looking for. That's going to give you the best bet, and see if you can resolve your issues outside of court. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting a very, very long time. And like the LTB being a little bit not working as well as it should at these days, I know that sometimes we have technical problems ourselves. I just the message is be patient and try and think outside the box when you're looking to solve your problems. Okay, well, that is all for today. Thank you for bearing with me through some of these camera issues, and I hope that the content was still there for you and I answered all of your questions. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our email is info@icpmpros.com, and I hope to see you next week